Hi there guys, my name is Jacob and welcome back to my channel. Now in today's video, I want to discuss why I think the pension auto-enrolment scheme is a double-edged sword. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, pension auto-enrolment, on the face of it, is a great thing. It was introduced in 2012 by the UK government, and it was introduced quite simply to make sure people have got a private pension. Now, you may or may not believe that it was also introduced to potentially phase out the state pension. That is an argument that could be made, but it is up for debate because the state pension still exists and, private pensions coexist alongside the state pension. But it was brought in 2012 and it was brought in to make sure that people have got a sufficient amount of money when they reach retirement age to which they can live comfortably. Now, on the face of it, that sounds great. Having a private pension alongside a state pension is wonderful, and it gives you an extra layer of, financial security. So you're not just reliant on one thing. But the problem I see with pension auto-enrolment is that it provides people with a false sense of security. And what I mean by this is that when people get a job, they get employed, and they go through all the paperwork, and quite often pension contributions will be in their employment contract, and people don't really pay much attention to it because they know that they've signed up to the pension, they know that they'll be investing in it, and when they get their paycheck they see that there's a contribution gone out to their pension. Quite often they know that their company is contributing as well, because that again is on your payslip, so they don't really think much more of it. They know that they're investing in their pension, and come the day that they need to access that pension, they think that it'll be there and it'll be enough. But the problem is most people only contribute the minimum into their private pension, and the minimum simply will not be enough. Now, there was recently a survey carried out by one of the UK's biggest pension providers, and they are called People's Partnership. And off the back of that survey, the findings are quite alarming, and they actually back up my thoughts on this. 20% of people have never logged into their pension provider's portal. 19% claim to check their pension monthly. 21% claim to check their pension annually once a year. And the most shocking stat of all that came from the survey, for me at least, was 76% of people who carried out the survey said they do not know how much is currently invested in their pension or where it is invested. And that for me is crucial, because if you don't know how much is in there and you don't know where it's invested, how could you possibly hope that what you're aiming for in retirement is going to be enough? Now, the CEO of People's Partnership had this to say after the survey was carried out. At a time where the majority of people are not saving enough for their retirement, it is very worrying that a large majority of people have never or rarely ever checked their pensions, which leaves them with no knowledge of how much they have saved and no knowledge of where their money is being invested. And again, this backs up what I think about auto-enrolment being a double-edged sword. It is fantastic on the face of it that it gets people in the door to a private pension. And, it gives you a taster of what you should be doing. But it also gives people that false sense of security that they're doing enough. And quite frankly, they're not. The majority of people don't know what's in their pension, and they don't know where it's being invested. Now, if you're somebody watching this and you think that you fall into the category of, you don't know what's in your pension, you don't know what you're investing, you don't know where the money's being invested, then, well, simply you need to log into your pension provider's portal and start to do a little bit of digging to find out, what percentage are you contributing, where is your money being invested. The sad thing is, most people who have a private pension contribute the minimum, and they also just put it into their pension provider's default fund. Now, you might think, well, the default should be the one that they're recommending you to use, so it must be good. But actually, the default is, it's just a low risk way of investing money. It isn't set out for high growth over time to maximize the growth of the money that you're investing. Low risk is basically just to maintain the capital that is going in and potentially keep up with inflation if you're lucky. But realistically, you're not going to see the growth that you need in your pension to have a big enough pot by the end of it. Now, if you're only contributing the minimum and you're putting it into the default fund, to be honest, I think you're going to be very disappointed when you get to retirement age and you see what is in your pot. The first thing you should be doing if you see that you're in the default fund and you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, and maybe even 50s, is you need to change where your money is being invested and change it to a higher risk profile investment. Now, you might straight away be, alarm bells might be going off when I say higher risk. But what I mean by that is, your investment currently, if you're in the default fund, will be in some stocks, maybe some cash, maybe some bonds, but just all low risk things. High risk basically just means that pretty much all your money, 100%, maybe 90%, is in stocks. Now, some people will immediately think, well, the stock market crashes, which means my pension could crash and I'll be left with nothing. Well, yes, that is partly true. The stock market does crash every now and again. But what people don't realise is stock markets also recover after a crash. And there's never been a stock market crash where the stock market hasn't recovered in time afterwards. Now, the average stock market crash recovers back to its original price before the crash in around 4 to 6 months. But it can take as long as 2.5 years. That has happened in history, in the history of the stock market. It has happened that it's crashed and taken around 2.5 years to get back to the price it was previously. But what that means is, even if the stock market does crash or your pension crashes because it's linked with stocks, is that yes, at the moment it crashes, you might be panicking, but as long as you don't need to access your pension at the time it crashes, it really isn't a worry, because time is on your side. And as time goes on, the stock market will recover and so will your pension. However, all the while that the stocks have been lower and you've consistently been drip feeding money in every month through your pension contributions, you have been buying stocks at a lower price. So by the time it goes back up, all that growth from the low price to the high price again, all that money is growth in your pension fund. And this is where a lot of growth comes from, in high risk pension pots. And this is why if you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, or maybe even 50s, and you think you still have 5 or 10 years left of work, you need to be in a higher risk profile pension pot. And that's why I want to bring this to the forefront today in this video. It is not enough to be in the default pension fund. It just isn't. And that, unfortunately, is what auto-enrolment does. It puts you on the minimum and it puts you in the default fund. But you need to take more control over your pension to make sure you're investing enough and you're investing it in the right place, because that is the only way you're going to maximise what you get out of your private pension. Now, I know this may have felt like a little bit of a lecture, but ultimately, the majority of people, according to the stats, don't check their pension. They don't know how much is invested in it, and they don't know where it's being invested. And this is something we need to rectify ASAP. So if you're one of those people that falls into that category, please, after watching this video, go and check your pension, log into your pension provider's portal, and just get to grips with, where you're currently at in your current position with your pension. You'll thank yourself in the future, I promise you. If you made it this far, guys, thank you very much for watching. If you could hit the like button and the subscribe button on the way out, I'll be very grateful. And guys, I will catch you in the next one.